Lean back.
Let's get it.
Lean back. What's up, Bridging the Gap crew? We back at it again. It's another day, another dollar.
Another day, another dollar. What's been going on in the world? Anything popping?
Well, you know, something that kind of irritates me a little bit, right?
What?
The NFL. The NFL, they made the new rule. They all passed it for the commission, through the commissioner, and all the teams agreed to it. The rule about, you know, the knee and the protest now. Where now, yet when you take a knee, you have to you either get fined for taking a knee during the national anthem during primetime games, or you go to the locker room and you could just sit in the locker room. You don't have to come out anymore. Mm-hmm. Which, okay, I'm like, all right, I see the compromise, but they're basically suppressing the whole protest. You know what I mean?
What I think of that, though, too, is the idea that I got at. I was like, but what do you think they're going to be doing back in that locker room? They're going to hit up the most powerful thing there is.
Social media.
Social media. They're going to be in the back, and it's going to cause
you know
another issue.
That's a good loophole, though. That's a good loophole.
But they can't do nothing.
Right, because they can just go in the locker room and just like take a. They can live, you can just do a live, like they don't even have to say nothing. Just them being recorded, like taking a knee in the locker room during the national anthem.
Because they also said, like, use your own platforms. Okay, social media. You know what I mean?
Well,
and all you got to get is the okay from coach.
Mm-hmm. Right,
because
and they have it though. They have it because that's the rule. Like if you don't want to protest, you don't want to be out in the field, and you don't want to get fined to protest, you go to the locker room. Right. They didn't say nothing about what you do in that locker room. Right. Period. Right. So that's actually a good loophole I didn't think of. No, but you know, it's crazy. Is like, you know, it's the perfect way that, you know, everybody's supposed to protest. It's peaceful, no one's making a noise, anything like that. And they're still saying, okay, but they're mad about it. They're still mad about it. Mm-hmm. You can't protest that way. Right. And it's just ridiculous because how is a black man or a white man or any person of any ethnic background whatsoever supposed to protest if that, you know, I mean, there's no, like, you can't even take a knee or a national anthem. I mean, it's so peaceful. There's nothing being said. You know what I mean?
And the whole thing that keeps getting looked over is that first the thing started where people were sitting. Right?
Right.
And then the guy that actually went and fought for this country reached out and said, hey, man, it's more respectful if you kneel, because that's what we do at the grave of a fallen soldier. We kneel at their sin. So Colin, what did he do? He adjusted. Right. Everybody else adjusted.
And I like the knee thing too, because you're right. Because then it's like he's honoring the troops still.
Yes.
Because that's what he's going for. He wasn't trying to disrespect nobody. The troops
country
and the people who died before. He's just saying, like, there are injustices in this country, and I can't stand for the anthem. I was like, I still respect the soldiers that have come before me and died and fought for the freedom of this country, but that happened. Now, this is what pisses me off, though, more so than anything about it, is you weren't required to stand or even kneel, or do anything for the national anthem in the NFL until 2009, when the DOD and the National cut a check for $6.7 million and another check for $5.8 million for them to stand and look more patriotic in the NFL.
Well, yeah, they're trying to recruit. The recruitment was down. They know that the NFL brings in, I mean, viewership. You know what I mean? And that right there is a big part of it too. It's a pay-to-play type scenario. It's all lobby. It's all the same BS we have to deal with. Why? Like, because there was a conversation on one of the morning shows that I watch and stuff, and the guy called in and he's like, yeah, I think, which I totally agree. If it was signed in there and it was signed by the Players Association,
right?
If they were okay with it, then
the NFLPA,
they have to respect and do what they're supposed to do, but the guy even said, well, I tuned in to watch a football game, not a guy protest. And the guy raised the question saying, okay, so why are you not watching the game after the turn it off?
Right, just, or don't even watch the beginning part of it. You know what, and that'll even bring out, too, who the real fans of football are, because, like, I mean, like,
I'm watching football.
Right, you know what I mean? I'll watch you take a knee. Like, even if I didn't agree with it, if I like football enough, I don't care. I will watch the games.
You're going to be like, hey, I might not agree with it.
Right.
That's just like how the world works. I don't agree with everything you say, but that's not going to stop us from moving forward with bridging the gap.
Right, exactly. You know what I'm saying? And that's what's crazy about it, is these people are, like, so intolerant, you know, that they would go and be like, I'm going to boycott the NFL for this. And now people on the other side who are who stood with Colin Kaepernick, they want to protest the NFL because of this new rule that was passed. And it's like, and here's the real thing. At the end of the day, the NFL is a business. It is a business. It has to make money. So I understand they have every right to make rules and policies that you have to follow, so because it hurts their bottom line, because maybe they're losing viewership. You know what I mean? And they have to make those rules. So I understand that. What I hate about it though is the way that they're going about it with censoring it. And the NFL is not about the DOD. It's not about. It's about the players in the game. And you know what? Even if those guys want to do what they want to do, you got to respect the players, because they are what make you the money. They are what do everything.
Just think, and this is the we got to face the facts. 80%, damn near 80% of the NFL is black. And they feeling like that is a thing that we want to stand up for. And we're making all this money, yes. But the owners are making crazy amounts of money. You know what I mean? Off of these players. Now, just think of, like these leagues that they're trying to start. Now, if you get a couple like-minded people together and they say, you know what, let's start on. What if they walked away from the league?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Where would the NFL be? Now, let's be real honest. Where would it be?
I mean, with the state of it now, people are actually looking for an alternative to the NFL because of all the stuff that's happened recently with the protests and everything else. So you're right. I mean, imagine if a lot of leaders in the black community went and started their own league and said, hey, you know what I mean? Feel free to act however you need to accordingly, etc., and then bring all these players in. I mean, the NFL would be kind of probably finding it hard to compete, especially if you got the right people together to fund the league.
It would be like what is that when Jimmy Hoffa when you picket signs, what's that called? I'm losing. Picketing, yeah, but what is it called? Strike. It'd be like a strike season of the NFL. You haven't experienced one. I've experienced.
A strike, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
It's garbage football. It's garbage football. You can't watch it. You're like, holy Christmas, what is this? It looks like a high school team.
Really? Oh yes, I do know what you're talking about. And then it kind of deteriorates the talent and everything. I'll tell you what. The NFL in past seasons has been getting very good games. Last year was a very good season in terms of parity.
Start getting up.
You know what I mean? Because teams that won games were and upsets were happening all the time. You were just seeing people wow, I thought these guys were gonna be good. They sucked. People you thought were gonna suck were good. Like Jacksonville, they just came out and just started playing some serious defense. And Blake Bortles.
You don't need to pay a quarterback $25 million to win a Super Bowl. You don't. No. It's been proven before. Teams done it. Your team did it. Your team that your coach that came back now did it. It set it up.
Right. For Rich Gannon. Yeah, Rich Gannon was pretty old.
He set it up. He wasn't an elite quarterback. He was just a quarterback that could get the job done.
Right.
You know what I mean? You don't. The guy from I forget his name from Baltimore. Mm-hmm. He was passing for 120 yards a game. It was the defense. It was the running game. It was the whole team chemistry. Right. So I think they just need to they need to start thinking they're thinking at the level because these are billionaires. And we know they're cocky as shit.
Right.
They're we got this money. They're gonna do what we want them to do. They're gonna run it our way. But if you want to keep the product up and you want to keep the country, supporting the game, which I think is who doesn't. It's not for everybody, but a sports fan, you gotta love waking up Sunday and saying, "Hey, man, you're hanging out with family, you're watching games,
right?
You're eating food, and you're having a good time." So who doesn't want that?
I agree with that. And something I was this is a joke I was thinking about earlier today. If you ever want to piss people off, just slightly inconvenience them in a way that doesn't affect them really in the long scheme of things. I swear to God. Whenever you're at a stop sign and there's a bunch of cars coming, right? Mm-hmm. People will get so pissed whenever oh, come on, make the turn, make the left turn. I'll do it. I'll yell or something for no reason. Oh wow, nice turn, jackass. Or there's people.
You got road rage.
Yeah. Someone's but the same thing with the protest. It's they're taking a knee. And it's does it really affect you? In the major concern, are you gonna get up? Yeah, is it gonna change? But that's the thing, because it just contradicts their beliefs just a little bit. It's the biggest problem in the world. They can run to social media and tell everybody that it's the biggest problem in the world.
It's one of those, and it's one of those things that you say you do it out of pride. You don't do it out of judgment for other people. Like,
right.
Are you really getting up? I've seen people talk this shit, but sat around me while the game was on, and they're not standing for the national anthem.
Right, exactly.
While it's going on.
And on the TV, exactly.
So, I mean, come on, man. Let's be realistic. And we got to pinpoint that there is things that are just totally messed up right now that what the protests are really about.
Right, exactly.
That nobody wants to disrespect the military.
Right, yeah.
Because I respect military, but I still understand that there's other parts of life.
Right, and that's the point we made about Colin taking the knee, was because he did it because he didn't specifically want to, because an armed soldier, someone who was in the military, told him this is more respectful, and he said, okay, I'll do that. Right. And then everybody took it like even worse. Like they took it like it did a complete 180 of what he wanted them to think.
Yeah, but it doesn't get mentioned though.
Yeah. Oh, of course.
Nobody's coming out and saying,
"Oh, of course."
Colin did that because of somebody that went to war for us. Said, "Hey, man, I understand what you're saying, but could you know what I mean?" And that was the compromise. Now nobody expanded on that and said, you know what I'm saying? Like, why wasn't that pointed out? Right. You know what I mean? Oh, and then it was the timing of Trump's being in. It keeps going back to him. And his negative ploys and everything he was doing, so people just fed right into it.
Right, and of course you said that demographic of people that got Trump in, it's the people that now think that they can just say whatever they feel, whatever they want. Right,
and that's just not cool. No, it's just not cool, because society doesn't need especially in all the things like that's going on and all that. It doesn't need to be like that. It doesn't. Yeah. And it's just. This is just pointing out, and this one more thing on it before I'm done with it, is just like we talked about this in one of our podcasts before, that when somebody says, "Yo, they're paying you millions of dollars to go do that," do they know that these people's brains are being studied right now because people are killing themselves and all that, and then they're gonna say, "Well, you chose to play that game." Okay, yeah, they chose to play that game. So why are you saying that they're getting paid to play with a football? It's just not true.
Exactly. I mean, they are kind of in a way risking their life, and their expectancy's going down, especially from the diseases they get from dementia, mental damage, stuff like that, Alzheimer's disease.
And they're not being compensated for it.
Right, exactly.
From the NFL, or the families, the survivors, the kids, the ones that are going to actually have to deal with all the mess, that are dealing with the mess. Like Junior Seau was a great guy, but as he was getting old, he played in the league till he was like 41, and then his diminishing started going, and he started doing crazy things. Now his family and kids have to see that. You know what I mean? And so it's just one of those things.
Yeah, but I guess if you're gonna play in that league, it's probably something now they made that you have to sign off on. Like, you understand that this could happen to you and everything else. But yeah, I agree. But like I said,
it's just one of those things. It's just like if you work at a job until it's time for you to retire, you get taken care of, right?
Yeah, right. If you work there long enough to get retirement, exactly.
Yeah, something happens to you.
But some jobs don't offer retirement either. Yeah, so you think about it that way. True. So you have to save up for your own. But so to wrap it all up there, put a bow on it, I wouldn't really like Goodell to kind of just, say kind of what we said, in the sense, we are the NFL. I was like, this league is not a bunch of checks from the DOD. We are not the National Guard. We are not a military recruitment office. I said, we are a league of players. So this is about the game and the players that play it. It's not about the owners. It's not about, and that's, that would have been a shot at the owners who own the teams, but, it's the truth, because we don't come to see, when I watch a Raiders game, I don't come to see Mark Davis come out with his bad haircut, with bags and everything, come out and be like,
Why is that, though? That brings up another question. Why do rich people look crazy? Like, they have the weirdest styles.
It's probably because they just, old people, or... We'll come back to it. Listen, but I would like Goodell to have come out and said that, and then just been like, look, I was like, they can protest however they want. I was like, we're here to protect them in any way that they want. They are our league. They are our team, And if we have to lose the check to, the DOD and the, so be it, because that's what makes us good. And you know what? That would get us. I'd give that guy a standing ovation. I wouldn't boo him every year the draft came on.
I think that's the truth. Well, one more thing, though, then in closing, but there's a couple owners that already spoke out. The Jets said that we might not fine ours, and then of course the Steelers, because we're always in the front lines when it comes to fucking injustice. We had the Rooney Rule. The Rooneys are just like, they come from that cloth where they had to come and fight for everything, and they fought, and they know what it really means to do that. A lot of these owners are generational wealth owners.
Right.
They're not self-made. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they're in a circle, they're in a tight-knit club, and there's a few of them that are like, nah, you can find us all you want, but we're not going to turn around and find a player. So that's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, agreed. That's going to be interesting to see. Now, rich people and their haircuts. Let me tell you something, okay? I think rich people, just because they're rich, right? They don't, because they could just do whatever the hell they want to their bodies, and you know what I mean? Like, they're still going to get, like, some lady's going to go, hey, like, I'd like $20,000 to sleep with you. Okay. You know what I mean? Like behind the scenes. And like, as I'm saying, like Mark Davis gets like these awful haircuts.
Let's like, get a bowl cut?
Yeah, it's like a bowl cut.
It's like,
bring up a picture of Mark Davis.
It's like right around. Yeah. Well, let's see what Mark Davis looks like.
Yeah, look at him. He's a freaking goofball. What does it say?
Wow, bro. You better not come out with one of them cuts this year, man. You better not. That might be the cut we get instead of the perm, bro. But yeah, I don't know. I think people count it up as eccentric, but people would just think about it, bro. We would probably be weirder if we had all that money because you could do whatever you want.
Yeah.
You could do everything that you wanted in life.
Really? You know what I mean? And like if someone hated you for it, like, you know, like, oh, look at this
like,
hair. Oh well. Oh man, like you grab like a wad of hundreds and dab your eyes with it.
Yeah.
Oh, he's made fun of my haircut.
All right, yeah, you NFL guys got to get it together, man. I understand the rule. Like, it should be like that. If they signed a piece of paper that says that, yes, they should have to do it. But you guys could come up with a better compromise. That's all I see. Dude played Trump like a fiddle.
Who played Trump like a fiddle?
Un Jung Kim or whatever.
Kim Jong-un. Right. Well, we talked about it on we talked about the Iran deal last week. We kind of expected it because when you pull out of a nuclear agreement and you just shit all over an agreement you made that was going to last you, you know, like 10, 15 years, and then, you know, like you're a government that's about to make a same kind of treaty with America and sit down and make a deal, like denuclearization and everything else. Mm-hmm. No, they're not going to want to do that after that. Yeah, you're right, though.
I think that was more of like... Probably partial what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's a contributing factor for sure.
Yeah, it's partial. I think it was more of him being like, you know what? Look, we can beat this guy at his own game right now because there's egg all over his face right now because he did what he did and he turned around and pulled one of his on him. Well, we'll just walk out of it. Right. We won't meet with you and talk to you because they have all the leverage. Yeah. Now he made all those announcements saying, "Oh my God, pat him on the back," but it didn't get done. So in my brain, they did that on purpose.
Right, exactly. Because
they're like, "Let's just do this, just to do."
So you're saying Korea clowned them?
Yeah, they were over there like, "Ah,
no, we'll do it. We'll tell them we're gonna do it.
We're gonna give credit, like I said last week. Dennis Rodman's gonna get the credit.
Dennis Rodman's gonna come in and be like, "All right, cool. Like, this is.
Look, come on, let's get this done, Kenny. Let's get this done." But yeah, that was crazy. And it's sad that we have to always, but it's the stuff that we have to talk about because it's out there.
Right. Yeah, I know.
You know what I mean? But I hope we get it together and then it works out.
I will say this too. In the past, same exact things have happened. Presidents have gone out there and agreed and gotten them to agree upon something. Mm-hmm. And like I said, the handshake, the people were like saying like, wow, like they just ended the Korean War. South Korea and North Korea have shook hands back in 2008, and they still ended up, you know, where they are, you know, just a few months ago, where they were. So, I mean, it's still the same concept, no matter what you look at. I mean, they could go right back to where they were in 2 months.
And to be totally honest, we can't, just like you said about how the intelligence was gathered about Iran last night, it wasn't gathered from it was gathered from what Israel said.
Right.
We don't know what they're really doing over there.
Yeah, right.
We don't know if they're sitting down and they're hanging out and they're smoking whatever.
Yeah.
What are those things called?
Incense?
No, those things. The
hookah?
Yeah, hookah. They could be smoking hookah, having fun, watching.
I like how you didn't know what a hookah was.
I can't remember
okay,
what it's called. But yeah, they could have been doing all that stuff. We don't know. We don't know. We're just they're feeding us what they want to feed us. That's one thing I hate about the news. Like that conversation that was on our feed with, I forget his guy's name. We'll bring it up. But you guys had a little back and forth about the news and what's being told.
Yeah, right.
Saying
Alex
do the
Bubman.
Research.
Yeah, because I saw it and I was like watching it. And it was just crazy because like if you watch it, it's funny how like CNN was like it actually relates to this too because like it wasn't CNN, it was Fox News. Mm-hmm. on Fox News, they were like, Obama is going to meet with North, and like they were like talking so negatively about Barack Obama going to meet with, you know, Kim Jong-un and also, you know, or the Iran deal. But then as soon as Donald Trump was going to meet with Kim Jong-un and he did all, they were like, oh, praise be Kim Jong-un and all this other stuff, Donald Trump, and they were saying Donald Trump is meeting with Kim Jong-un, this is monumentous, even though Barack Obama did the same thing, but they talk trash. And it's because of, I'm just saying, you see the biases in their newscasting. And it's sad because if you watch a lot of news, like he said...
It's both sides, though.
Right.
Both sides are doing it.
I agree. I'm saying, that's what I told you.
So that's where I say that it's like a level playing field, because both sides are doing the same tactics.
What I'm saying is, like, because he was saying about, well, I watch news as a bias. Like, I promise you that some news everywhere has a bias. They have somebody that backs them up, so they have to kind of push their agenda. Right. Or else the news wouldn't pay. There'd be no reason, you know? Yeah. And I was sitting there saying, so the best thing I like to do is I like to watch both Fox and CNN.
And pick out the common fucking sense, man.
Yeah. Or just the
common sense.
Or the common ground, like the thing that the stories both share, like the facts. Because then you get both sides of the story, which makes sense. You know what I mean? Because people can word something a way and say it somehow and make it sound... You ever see that video I shared on our page? And it was another thing I quoted. Where like it was showing how like all these newscasting stations were saying the same exact thing. Like 180 of them. All these different broadcasting networks were all saying the same exact thing. And it was because they were prompted to, and it was about talking about fake news. And telling people that the internet, don't listen to the internet. The internet doesn't know what it's talking about. You know, which, and to your credit, don't believe everything you read on the internet, but, you know, it's crazy.
And I can't remember, I'm going to try to find out where I saw this before, but fake news was being used back in Reagan's time.
Yeah, oh yeah.
It came out that fake, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, it's just like the following, like, of people that you're around. Like, if my parents came home and they were telling me things over and over, what am I going to believe? Whether if it's true or not. I'm going to believe what they're telling me because that's what I'm around 24/7. And that's what the news feeds on.
Right, exactly. You know, like
our president said he only likes Fox News. So everybody's going to Fox News even if they were watching CNN that want that.
Well, yeah, it's like a, you know, people were kind of mindless in that sense where they just go and they flow to whatever, either generational to them, meaning their parents did it, so then they watched it, so then that's what they watch, or, you know, this is our guy, we picked him, he's going here, this is what he watches, we're going to watch that, you know.
Is what it is. You just got to, like we say here around Bridget, you got to do your own research. You have to. You have to do your own research. You have to go, and it's all in the books, in the libraries. History, our history is in those books.
Yeah.
In the libraries, you can get them off the internet, but you can't go to somebody's page and think
it's always going to give you the best answer. I mean, we strive here to do that for you guys.
But like, always do your own research.
Like, always fact check us, because there might be something we've missed, and then you are going to be like,
oh, I'll miss a whole lot of shit.
And that's the thing, though. I like that because what we're trying to do at Bridget and Gab is create a community of people that are willing to talk back to us and tell us, hey, like, this is actually something I looked into, and then be like, oh, cool, because that broadens our horizons, so then we can help provide better information whenever we run into somebody and talk to them about a particular topic, like the one we're going to talk about today. So, Coach, today, what are we talking about?
We're gonna what's been going on. I think they're taking a look at it. They're taking a real light look at it, but we're gonna do some prison reform. I really think that our prison system is crazy and it's not working. There's a lot of people that shouldn't be in there. That need
or maybe you could argue that it's working too well.
Too good.
It's working because if you think about it, everybody's getting caught. Everybody's going to jail. It's crowded. You know, so much so that they've had to hire privatized prisons to come in and do everything.
Well, no. They didn't hire privatized. They made everything was made to make money. They didn't have to do that because you got to do the research. You got to know what percentage of people. It's a huge percentage. Non-violent criminals should not be in jail. They should be rehabilitated. They should have to do a little bit of time, but doing numerous years of time for weed, marijuana is not working. You know, you're taking people away from their family because of weed. That's not a good thing.
Oh,
if not.
I totally agree. Let me see. Let me pull something up real quick. Just a statistic, because you were saying about that, right? Okay, so we're talking about mandatory minimums, okay, which is, basically like for certain sentences there's a mandatory amount of time. So this is actually something I got from I watched Last Week Tonight with John Oliver. This is Weldon Angelos, was a man who was selling marijuana and just so happened to be in possession of a firearm. His sentence, just take a guess what his sentence was, Coach.
He automatically getting a nickel, depending on what his scale is and what state he in. He probably got like 15 years. More? Did he have more crimes on his jacket, though?
No, first-time offender.
First-time offense. So what, he don't tell me over 20. They gave him
55 years.
Are you crazy? Coach. What state
no
is this?
No parole. I don't know the state.
But that's a big factor though too in prison reform. You got to know the states.
But 55, regardless, it doesn't matter which state it's in. It's excessive. That's so excessive. You're telling me some guy had marijuana, which nowadays is almost at this point by the majority of people seen as okay.
Right.
And you're telling me 55 years in prison for this, no parole, no parole. Okay, hold on. The judge who sentenced him didn't even agree with it, because that's the mandatory minimum in the state. He said, quoting that he had this guy had hijacked an aircraft, he would have spent a minimum of 24 years. If he was a child rapist, 11 years. If he was a terrorist or committed terrorist acts, 20 years.
And that's where we're getting at with the prison reform. What this, what they're trying to do right now, the reform they're trying to do, you can't talk prison reform without talking courts and sentencing.
Right.
They're only talking about reforming the prisons on how they're ran and that stuff. They're not talking about you have to be able to reform the courtroom. Mm-hmm. You have to get those mandatory minimums. That was crazy.
Yeah.
That was that's Hillary and Bill's basic predator. That speech she had about the predators, about when a crack cocaine thing was going on. That's what that was all about.
Right. You know what's funny, and this is something too. Okay, the average age, the biggest age group in prison are people 31 to 45. And the reason why that is because of mandatory minimums. Because people are getting locked up young, forever basically, right? And they're still in prison for 40, 20 years. And then, for something that's so small as a mediocre drug offense, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And these people are stuck there. And they're 35, 45 years old. So it actually shows you statistically what's going on. I mean, that's how these people are in their midlife. The majority of them still in prison. And only about 30% or 40% of those people get let out within that span. Which is crazy.
And another thing is, like in doing that, like these mandatory minimums, right? You get somebody that makes a mistake, right? Mm-hmm. Now you're putting a person that just made a mistake. You put them in the system, and now they're running around like real lifetime violent criminals that are doing like major years for doing some real horrible shit. Now, what do you think is going to happen to that person?
Right.
They're not going to get rehabilitation. They're going to become a worse, hardened, no heart criminal, and they doesn't. You know what I mean? The non-violent and violent people should not be together.
Yeah, exactly.
They shouldn't.
Because those people will, that's all they know whenever they go in there. And they see like these, they become accustomed to the people that are there, the violent people that are there.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
you have to.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to protect yourself.
Exactly.
You have to.
And then
it's just natural animal instinct.
And then whenever you get out, what life's waiting for you outside the door? We're talking about prison re-entry. The national rate of recidivism is 50%. So jails are really only working in terms of reconditioning the people that go to prison by 50% rate. So only half of the people that get out of prison actually go back in the world and contribute. The other 50,
that's a hard thing.
The other 50 go right back to jail.
And it's also like the privatizing of it, because what are they doing? They're in there. If you can, there's people that, to me, it should be, okay, this is part of your sentence. If you're going in there and you're saying, oh, we're going to pay you 2 cents an hour, 15 cents an hour to make these things that are being put out and that we're consuming, is being consumed and making people millions and millions of dollars, you should get a trade from that. To walk out of the prison and walk out of there with a cosign from that company, or that company should be made to make a a plant that whatever they were getting from there should be a plant where they can those people can go there and work till they get on their feet, and then they can move out and then get a reference. And they build them up something and go somewhere else.
A story I was also heard and seen, like I said, from last week tonight, was a gentleman who was given a gift card when he got out of prison for $20. That's what they gave him, a gift card for $20. And then they asked him, well, how much did that last year? He's like, one meal. He was like, I ate one meal.
I got out, and then plus two with the mandatory minimums, you got people. If you do over 10 years in prison, okay, not everybody's in there using the technology. There's people, but not everybody has access to it. You're coming out to a whole new world.
Oh yeah. A good movie that's a good indicator of that is a Sling Blade.
Oh yeah.
That movie where he comes out. You know what I mean? Like all he knows is he's like he was a kid when he went in there, so he has like a 12-year-old.
You stop growing.
Yeah, he has like a 12-year-old's mentality, and he comes out, pretty much like a 12-year-old's mentality. And then he comes out in the world, and they're like, yeah, you want to get a job? And this guy's like sleeping in a shed. I mean, he was mentally disturbed too. Like that's not the best example because of like what happened with his family and everything. But I'm just saying, still. He was like living in a shed. He was working on lawnmowers. Like that's all he knew. Like these people out here got like registers. He's like he didn't even know how half the stuff worked.
Yeah, another example for people out there, like American Gangster. When he came out of jail, and he seen what was going, he was like, it's a shock to you because you're used to what you were doing before you were in there. That's the life you knew. Now you coming out to new music, new trends, new technology.
Maybe culture shock.
Yeah, you're just like, what am I going to do? And then they say to you, figure it out.
Yep.
Then when you go to your probation and check in, they give you a list of things and say, I don't give a rat's ass what you have to do.
Get here.
Get it done.
Right. You know what else is crazy too is like a good story is the guy who was on probation and like he had a great job and everything, and his probation officer, like him and the probation officer, he's like, hey, like I have work. And he was like, can we meet at this time? Probation officer's like, nope, you have to meet me at this time. He's like, that's it. Like this is
that's how it is, bro. I was on probation for something I did when I was 18, right? So they got me in as an adult.
Okay, I gotcha.
Gun was involved. I got a good deal out of the whole thing. But the whole time, the probation was just like they were looking for, not just saying, okay, you're doing your things, you're doing your visit, but they were looking for a reason to get me. Now, if you're on a county, difference between county and state, if you get a state sentence, your time never stops. If you get revocation, you go to jail, but your time keeps going on. On a county sentence, if you get arrested on a county sentence, you could be resentenced over and over. That's what happened to Meek Mill. He's been on this for 18 years.
Oh, really?
I mean, since he was 18 to 31 for 13 years, and he was going to sit in jail for 2 to 4 years because of a couple minor things going against the cop because he kept getting violated for dumb stuff. So the problem that I have now is like we're so disconnected with who's in office right now. Our community, the black community, is so disconnected with it, that Meek was going to go sit down at the prison reform meetings with the president and all of them and talk about what is lacking from them. And all the people in our community that are leaders, Jay-Z, all of them said, nah, it's not for a conversation for you to go there to have with them. They're not gonna, they're gonna abuse what our angles are. They're gonna try to appease to that. They're gonna try to win votes off of it. We don't want them to have anything. We're just gonna start standing up for. We're gonna just start being responsible for our actions. You know what I mean? More or less policing our. Because where I'm from, we police ourselves. We don't call the police. The only time I would actually call the police is if somebody broke into my house and I shot them. And they broke into my house and I came home and all my stuff was gone. I called to get a report. If I had to get a report for insurance or whatever. Or if I couldn't get to somebody.
Right.
I wouldn't, or somebody got shot or something like that. I wouldn't call them because of something that a man did to, out on the streets. We police ourselves like that. That's when the people come in and say, just like you did at Sheets, you said, whoa, guys, don't be fighting. or whatever.
I just said take it outside, right?
Right.
Because they were fighting cheats, and you know what I mean. Like I don't want to make it a scene, and like you know what I'm saying. Like, and there's people in here like they don't need this today. You know what I mean? Like go outside, like argue about
it. It's policing. That's what we call it. That's what we do because we have no trust for them, bro. At most times that police come to a scene in our community, it turns into people going to jail that had nothing to do with it. Because that's what the police do. That's what they do. So there's a disconnect from that. Because like they said today, it used to be that cops came from the area that they patrol.
Yeah.
Now we have college graduates. And there's nothing wrong with that. But they have no clue how it goes on down there.
Yeah. Right, and you kind of want the local guy that's been there for a while to be the guy in your area, you know, because then he could even see you, you know, and know who you are and say, "What's going on?" Like, you know what I mean? And like, and you know who he is, and it's a respect kind of thing. Where like you're like, yeah, like this is what's going on, you know, like you could talk about that. But like, when like Joe Schmo who doesn't know nothing about you,
he just hops out aggressive.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Like, no, this is like a police state.
Yeah, like a police state, exactly.
Yeah. So, but we had back when I was growing up, we were running around doing dumb shit. But my cousin's dad was a cop. My uncle was a cop, and he lived right. We hung out on this street right here. He lived right on the corner, and he used to come by, hop out. Hey, how you guys doing? He knows what we're doing,
right.
But instead of saying, you know, start shaking people down and doing all that dumbass shit, he's saying, listen, if I come back around here again, I don't care, family or not, you're going to jail. But he would also say, you know, he would stand there and talk, and he would say, try to do this. Why you guys ain't doing this? Blah,
right.
blah, blah, blah.
Instead of, like, just, like, arresting him and...
Just automatically hopping out and doing dumb shit.
Yeah, right. You know what I mean? That would be nice, too, like, if you had a cop around there. I know from where I'm from, I mean, most of the cops that are there, in my hometowns and small towns, are people that are...
Yeah, from there.
From there.
Yeah.
You know? And anyway, you were talking about the recidivism and everything. I'll tell you this. Okay, so private prisons, right? You know, the prisons owned by corporations like CCA, Geo Group, right? They make up about, well, probably now they've grown. So I'd probably say about 12 to 13% of prisons, right? Private prisons. And, you know, they're run like businesses. The problem with that is that prisons are not businesses. They are state correctional facilities for trying to get people to, you know, go back and, well, I mean, they're not doing a very good job of it, in my opinion, but, you know, to try and get them to correct their ways, the error of their ways, stop doing, you know, like, you know, distributing, like, deadly drugs to people, stop killing people, stop beating people, you know, stuff like that. You know, just don't be a dick. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, just don't be a dick anymore, you know?
Right.
But, and they are publicly traded, so they're making billions, so that's crazy. So they're actually making money off of what's happening to these, like, the misfortunes and bad decisions of other people. They're making money off of it, billions of dollars. And it's crazy to me is that when you're a business, I mean, you can cut costs. You have to cut costs. So what do? They mess with the food there, Coach. They did studies on the food at private prisons that doesn't even qualify as health nutrition for people. Like, it doesn't even qualify.
No, bro, you've never been to a prison. I was in a county jail, the most I've ever been. I was pretty. You know I learned my
Coach,
lesson.
I'm going to tell you something. I plan to keep it that way.
You better keep it that way.
I plan to keep it that way.
Put a foot in your ass. But, yes, the food is horrible. It's scraps. It's dogs' food scraps. That's what it is.
Right. But they said even in state prisons that are owned by the state, the food wasn't as bad, health-wise, nutrition-wise, as it was in these private prisons because they cut costs. Like, they would get, I think they said something about, like, something actually being compared to sawdust. Like, that they put in food, bro. Right, which is crazy. And the another thing is they cut staff. They cut the staff of these prisons because they're trying to save money. Well, there was actually a juvenile center where it became a cesspool of, like, assault and sex and everything because they only had 2 guards working there. You know what I mean? And they let it fester. And then that place got shut down.
That's not even private. You're looking at a whole bunch of things. Like, I mean, that happens, like, and it just happens because there's not enough guards in any prison, whether it's privatized or not.
Right, but I'm saying, they've only made it. I'm saying, like, but in those prisons it was reduced, like, significantly. Like, it was so bad you don't understand how bad it was there. There was nothing.
I understand.
Right, and I'm saying, like, they could have done all kinds of, like, guards and put them in there and everything else, but they didn't do that.
Yeah, I mean, then that's what like you said, you're cutting costs, bottom line.
And when they do their pitches, whenever like this is what is the craziest thing about, because I was talking about recidivism, right? These groups, these private prisons, when they go to pitch to investors and everything, and they say we're going to build a prison, they tell them one of their talking points is high recidivism. Whenever your business model,
I think explain to recidivism what that means.
Recidivism means that when people go into jail and then they come out, the amount of rate that they go back to jail after they've left jail.
Revolving door.
Right, and that's the thing. But their business model's built off of that recidivism. So they're not going to try and rehabilitate you. They don't want to fix you. They want you to go right back out there, do exactly what you've been doing, what you've been messing up in your life. They don't want you to get better. So then that way you come right back in the door and they keep making more money to have you.
More money. And that's one of the things though too, is because you can't tell me that money ain't being kicked back, because it was proven they were kicking back. You can't tell me they're not doing it for adults, because what was it, kids, what was that, something for kids, where that judge in Pennsylvania got caught taking kickbacks. So you can't tell me that those the kickbacks ain't going for adults. When I forget what it was called, Kids for Play, something it was called. A judge got caught sentencing kids, sending them to this facility and getting kickbacks.
Getting kickbacks from the, yeah, okay, I know what you're talking about. So you're saying like these judges are getting money for sentencing these people to these prisons.
Particular things. So you're sitting, they're conspiring to do.
Yeah, exactly. That's crazy.
If me and you conspire to do something, we're going to one of those places. Right. You know what I'm saying? So those type of things, like when like we talked about at the top of it, is saying that you can't reform a prison without reforming the court system at the same time.
Right. Well, I think there's two ways to really reform prisons, and actually there's a whole process, and you know, we could talk about the way that it would take to fix it. But I mean, we touched on one pretty directly here, and that's basically the recidivism, the people are getting in and they're coming back. And also the sentencing, which is the people being sentenced to obscurely extreme sentences, because and for minor offenses too. Like I said, first time drug offenses, 55 years.
It's non-violent.
Yeah, exactly. It's
non-violent. I think it's like, don't quote me, do the research on this, but I think it's around 70% of people in jail are non-violent criminals.
Right. Well, hold on. You know what else is funny? Let me pull this up. I have the. This is according to. I'm trying to remember the group.
We'll put that up there with the percentages. We're gonna look into that and find that out, because I think.
No, I have them. I have them typed up from the BO. I forget what it's called, the BBOP or something like that, the Bureau of Prisons, or BOP, Bureau of Prisons. Where was it? I was looking. We'll talk about gender, but offenses right here. The number one contributors to incarcerations are drug charges, making up an astounding 46.2% of all incarcerated. Almost half of people in jail.
Okay.
Are in jail because of nonviolent drug offenses.
Okay, now you got to add on the drug. They might not have got caught for the drug itself, but they got caught feeding the drug by a petty thief, or, you know what I mean, stealing something from a store, or something, you know what I mean? Oh, right. No, that's got to be a huge.
No, that's probably a portion too. The second, these are in order. I have the second and third. The second leading cause of incarceration is weapons, explosives, and arson. I know, right? Which now that I think about, though, gun charges are pretty prevalent. I've seen people.
Yeah, you get a lot of people.
And the third, it makes about 9%, is sex offenses. And then
sex offenders should be in jail. Period. They should be getting the first time 50-something years. That makes no sense.
Yeah.
That makes no sense that you walk around and you prey on people
11
to
years.
do something that will mentally scar them for the rest of their lives. Drugs, I understand that's sort of a prey situation too, but most people choose to go look for drugs. They don't choose to get sexually assaulted.
Right. And here's another thing too that I like when you compare those two together. A sexual offender, you don't sit there and you're a messed up person, you know what I mean? You're looking for this kid and you're going, or this, whoever it is, the person that you're trying to rape, you're a predator, you're a monster, you know what I mean? And you're trying to hunt these people down with drug offenses. You're not really trying to harm anybody else outside of maybe your own intentions and the people around you.
You're just ignoring what you're ignoring when you sell drugs. You ignore what your part is on taking down your fellow man.
Yeah, right. Okay.
You're not saying, oh, because I was told once when I used to run around, I own my truth. I used to sell drugs. I was told once by an older one of my products, they were like, "You are too nice to be doing this." Because everybody else is like, they ignore the fact. But I looked at people like, this is one of the reasons that made me stop doing it. I'm sorry we're going off, but I have to tell this one, is that I had somebody that was one of my customers, and I was doing things, blah, 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 blah. But one day she came down the street, it was like 2 days before Christmas, right?
Uh-huh.
And she asked me, hey, I make you all kinds of money. You take care of me, She's like, Christmas is coming up, and I don't have no money to get the kids anything. So I'm like, all right, cool. I go out and buy a whole bunch of stuff, for the kids. Buy some sneakers, clothes, toys, whatever. I'm like, cool. I talked to my, person I was with at the time, and I'm about to let's go do this. It's like, cool. So Christmas Eve, I get a call from somebody telling me that she just came down the street and sold those kids shit.
Sold those kids drugs?
No, sold the kids shit that I bought for drugs.
Oh.
So I had to go back the next day, Christmas morning, and buy some more shit. And then it opened my eyes to say, I'm playing a big part in this.
Right.
I need to switch what I'm doing.
Right.
So that's when I started going into coaching and youth development and saying, I can't be a part of this type of shit no more. It wasn't,
especially whenever someone sold the shit that you just bought.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It wasn't that I bought it. It was that you came and said you didn't have it. And whatever that you wanted it that bad, that you went and sold your kids' Christmas away for it.
Yeah, you got to be on the other side of that, and because that's just crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine how could you even sleep with how could you even like know when you sold your kids? Well, you can't.
I mean, it's you're a mess.
I know you're a mess, but man, that's crazy to me.
But needless to say, that person got clean off of that situation. Mm-hmm. Off how I handled it. I'm not going to say how I handled it, but it wasn't good.
Right.
It was that she felt like, so within months, clean and been clean since. Because I was like, how, what you just said.
I mean, how could you do that? You know
what I mean?
And that's and sometimes what they need to hear. And we're talking about prison and the rehabilitation. Like I said, these private companies are making money. These private prisons are making money off of the recidivism and people going back to jail. We need to start working with people to try and create ways.
It's a re-entry.
But we don't want the re-entry. That's the reason why prisons are so overcrowded. It's actually, believe it or not.
No, re-entry. What do you mean? Re-entry means you're re-entering into society. There needs to be programs for that.
Oh, yeah, re-entry.
Not re-entry back into the jail.
No, that's what I'm saying. We're talking about the problems with recidivism.
Yeah.
We need re-entry.
If you had
re-entry programs. Right.
If you had re-entry programs, there wouldn't it'd go down.
Here's the truth. Therapy and rehabilitation is actually more cost effective than prisons. It actually, there needs to be punishment, I agree, but to the degree at which these punishments are coming is ridiculous. And there's people that post things saying about how this prison's going to close down unless they fill 300 beds. That shouldn't be a thing.
Who gives a fuck?
Prisons being shut down should be a thing. It's
a good thing.
To maybe not to the investors who invested into it and everything else, but to everybody else, to the world, to society, prisons being shut down is a good thing. It actually creates other jobs in rehabilitation and in that field. And what's funny too is I was watching something. Therapy, for therapy and everything else, you don't even need a particular degree or something to say something's therapeutic. Did you know that? You could label a business or chiropractor.
I think for them to get official credit for it, if they have to show somebody, they would.
But there's no broad definition. Equine therapy. If you owned a horse farm and you just want to say, hey, I'm going to open this up as a therapy.
You could get funding for it.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm
saying. From the government.
Yeah, I know. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. But there's no specific thing. But I'm saying, imagine, you open up these therapy areas, and that would help people get better rather than because I understand.
You know what the main thing though is? I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish.
Yeah, but the only thing I wanted to finish with was just that when they go to these prisons, they're in there, they're locked up for 30 years. They get out. There's no programs available right away as soon as they get out. Mm-hmm. probably require an astronomical amount of money. I've seen some of these real rehab places, like the one that's like I forget what it's called. It's out like California. It's like $20,000 for like a month for this rehab, which is like stupid. I mean, it's like for celebrities, I guess, basically. But
yeah,
I mean,
you're looking at the wrong one. Those are day spas where
right.
celebrities go and say, I was exhausted, I had to take a break. Nah, you've been sniffing Xanax.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
You didn't make your shoot the last day to film the movie and they're pissed.
Yeah, so you're just like, oh, I'm addicted. I gotta get help.
Yeah, but the main thing is, like, you can't, like, you gotta think of it like this. When a person leaves a jail, they're out. There's no, like, if you're not going to a halfway house or anything like
right.
that, if you're just out on the street, you know what I mean? You don't, there has to be a plan in place for you to get some kind of employment started. It can't be wander around the streets for the rest of your life knowing that you're walking around right back into the same mess that you left.
Right.
And plus it's 10 times even, you know, whatever, how, depending on how long you did, it could be like it's worse or it's new. You're shocked. It's a shock value.
Yeah, right.
So you have to have a plan in place that says, why not make a business of doing that? I don't understand that.
I agree. And you know what though is, like I said, like you would think like these private prisons would invest in that business because there's going to be so many people. You know, I mean, I forget how many thousand prisoners are released every year from state, local, and federal prisons. You know, like why wouldn't you? It's crazy. Why wouldn't you start creating these businesses? And I want to do the research on that too. I want to see how many businesses there are pertaining to that because I know it's not a big number, but there's
actually one here in Altoona.
Really?
The people down at the bus station, it's small. It's a small business.
Right.
But it's for people that have just driving DUIs things. They can come there and get a job for a little while till they get on their feet, get them a couple bucks. Small.
Yeah, but it does.
But it gets them back out there. You got to think of it on that bigger level, man. Like, I mean, like, I think we talked about this before. Like, I think if you have a privatized prison or you're somebody like Walmart or somebody that's these big companies, they should have places that are like that. They should have, okay, we're going to buy 50 acres of land. We're going to put Walmart facilities on here. We're going to put housing for people.
Right.
And we're going to let these people come here through this system, work themselves up to actually go out and get a job. It doesn't even have to be with Walmart.
Yeah, right. But I mean,
and to save your bottom line is you say and they have no choice because you just came out of jail. You get in there, you got a place to go, you got a place to lay your head, and then you're not getting the wages that you would get until you graduate and get out there. So that can help their bottom line too for doing it. I agree upon that. I agree that you should have to have some kind of, you know, you have to grind to get back up to where you are and prove I'm not going to continue on doing that.
Continue doing what you're doing.
Right.
And I agree with that too. But I mean, at the same time, you gotta make it a little bit easier for them to do that. I mean, the world, like I said, especially if you've been in there for 30 years, like we've talked about. If you've been in there for 30 years, the whole game of the world has changed. Like everything's different, you know. If you've been in prison for 30 years.
What can you actually be in jail for 30 years for? What
I'm just saying,
really should.
But I mean, even now, like if you were in jail, if you went to jail, just think about this. If you went to jail, say 2008, and you got out 10 years, so it's a 10-year sentence, right? How different is the world that it was in 2008 that it is now?
Oh, it's very.
That's what I'm saying. Like it's so different.
Yeah.
And
the transition would be knowing that. The transition is coming in, okay, you're coming in here, there should be a filter to saying, you got to stay here in this place right here.
And here's this
and
job.
And you're going to be working menial job, but you don't have to worry about food or not a place to stay. And then you're going to work yourself up through levels to get to a job.
And they're out in the world long enough to start realizing the changes in the world. You know what I'm saying? But like, imagine just being thrown out in the world. There's no filter, like you said, no filter. There's no tunnel that's taking you. Like it's not easing you in. You're not being integrated. That's the word. Integrated into society. Rather, you're being thrown into society.
You're being thrown.
You're just like, phew. Hey man, you better get out there.
People are so happy. Like you're so happy. Like I've seen it many a times where cousins or family members, they get paroled from jail. They're so happy when you pick them up, but after a week or two out, they're like, what the hell am I gonna do?
Yeah.
The PO's on my neck. I have 2 kids.
Mm-hmm.
The kid's mom is like, you have to get it together. Come on. I've been doing this by my. You know what I'm saying? These are social situations that are happening that can't be overlooked. If you're saying it's rehabilitation, make it rehabilitation.
Right. Don't
just eat off of people's misery when they're down and they did some dumb shit. Don't eat off their misery. That's not how me, as I know this country, that I love this country as should be like.
Yeah. And now we're talking about leaving prison. We're going to circle back to when people get into prison when we're talking about sentencing. We really need to start reducing the sentences for nonviolent drug charges. It's ridiculous. The war on drugs has created...
joke.
It's not a joke. It's criminal. It is criminal in itself because it is... For someone to have... Okay, another example is a gentleman from, I believe, Alabama, caught with 3 grams of meth. Life sentence.
Why though? There's variables missing. Did he have a scale? He could have had a gun charge, and there's scales that need to be looked at.
But I'm saying that if you look at it like with I don't know. Like I said, I thought for
sure. There's a whole system.
I'm sure it was. Like I said, because when I was watching this, like I said, I was watching last week tonight. He said that's what he was trying to show. His first-time offenders.
If it was a first-time offender for that's outrageous.
And that's what I'm saying is like the outrageousness of it because of the drugs. And it's crazy that you would tear away someone's whole entire life from them, put them in jail for 55 years. When you got kids and everything else, because you got the marijuana one. I spoke about Angelos. He had the marijuana and he happened to have a gun in his possession. Mm-hmm. So 55 years of this man's life needs to be taken away because he had a plan. And
you know what's horrible about this
mm-hmm.
is that this administration is not even going to look at the sentencing part of it and the pardons, just despite Obama.
Yeah.
Because everything he moves around is spiting him, so he's definitely not going to do that. Obama let 3,000 people that were overcharged and over-sentenced
pardon
him, which he should have. The crack epidemic was a mess, and our government, I don't give a fuck what nobody says, they had something to do with that. They allowed that to happen. The President of the United States was helping that happen when he was governor in Arkansas, and those are just facts. You got to do that research.
Yeah.
They just couldn't prove. They couldn't prove it.
You couldn't dog him.
He had the power to make it go away.
Mm-hmm.
So those things like that right there. So that could have continued, and that's what the only thing like. Our community was like, okay, that's cool. Okay, do that. How are we going to build on that? And that's what Hillary's trying to run her thing on. But you're the one that sentenced them.
Right.
You're the one that put the bill in there to say you're predators. You're going to jail for 80 years for having 2 grams of crack cocaine.
Yeah, which is ridiculous. Like I said, a substance. It's so minuscule. And we were joking around earlier on the podcast today about like if you want to piss somebody off, just do little things, little tiny things that have no bearing on your life. And I agree. You need some kind of punishment, right?
Yeah.
You need to go because
you get caught, you caught.
But I'm saying like it should be like this. It should be like a punishment. So like you're there from anywhere, depending on the crime. But if it's like a low level drug offense, like 1 to 5 years. Like we'll say that, right? 1 to 5 years,
mm-hmm.
depending on if it's second, third offense, whatever. 1 to 5 years, and then like we said, go into prisons that aren't privatized, aren't run like businesses. You know what I mean? Like you're in there, you're doing your time, and then they funnel you after you get out into programs to rehabilitate you.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's how it should be done.
And
I'll tell you what.
It doesn't happen though.
And I'll tell you this: if you took down the statutes, or not statutes, but the minimum sentencing on drug charges,
mm-hmm.
if you think about it like that, you took that away, that sentencing, you minimized it. The prisons, hundreds of prisons would close down probably because it'd be empty. But and if that's not what you want, but that's what the American people want because it's actually cheaper in terms of economics for us to, instead of keeping these prisons open. And then when these prisons close down, then put all that money back into those programs when you funnel them through.
And for that to be reformed, it even goes farther than the courts. Because even in this county right now, the system that they run on catching drug people, there's only one place in the United States that runs a system, and it's a small one down in Florida. It's a small community that runs it the way that it's ran up here.
Really?
Yes, only one. Nobody else does it this way. But the thing is, they're not getting drug dealers. They might get one. You see all those times you see 30, 33 people get arrested like every 4 months. Yeah.
Which is crazy. 30 people.
Hold on. Let me finish. Those 30 people, maybe one of them was actually a drug dealer. The other ones were just passing drugs between each other, selling drugs to get them high.
Yeah.
So they keep recycling that thing through drug court and all that. And then the guy's getting paid like $250,000 just to go out and keep busting the same
40. Oh my God, really? That's insane.
It's a cycle. So they'll send them to jail, drug court and all that, and then it'll recycle back around. Now they're out again. They're telling on all their friends that they're getting high with, and all the drug dealers are on the outside of the place, and they're not getting busted. They're just dropping off the drugs, getting it real quick, and going.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Moves.
So they're not getting no drug dealers. They're getting people that are addicted to drugs.
Yeah. And that's not gonna, and you're not benefiting them by, you know,
you're not doing nothing
by locking them up for, you know, excess amount of years, and then they're just throwing them back out into society, like, all right, go back to your life where you were doing drugs.
And the main thing though is, this is where it's criminal. They're paying them to do it. They're paying. I'm a cop. I bust you.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I catch you with.
Sorry, officer, I didn't mean it.
I catch you with a couple pieces of meth, and you got your pipe in your pocket. I say to you, Dev, you want to get out of this, Dev? You want to get out of this?
Yeah, I want to get out.
This is what we're going to do. You're going to go, whoever you bought that meth from, you go get it, you tweaker. Go get it. Go get some more from them, and we're going to pay you $40 to do it.
Okay, yeah.
So you're thinking, oh, I get to leave. I'm going to go catch this guy. I'm tweaked out. I'm going to go sell this. I'm going to go buy this from him, and you're going to give me $40 to go get high with after I'm done.
$40 with you.
$40 for you. The cops are giving you money to go go rat on people.
That's just crazy.
Now think about this.
Yeah.
They're charging people to that, like, if they catch you, you're the last person, that phone call, that person, they OD and die, and they call that number and you pick up and they put that together that you're the last one that called them, you're getting charged with manslaughter for that OD now. That's what they're doing now.
That's crazy.
But think about this. This is the main thing. How many people have overdosed off that $40 that you let them out after they ratted on? Where are those facts? Where are those numbers? That's criminal. Yeah. That's part of the whole system that keeps revolving.
But they're gonna treat it as, we just gave him $40. What they do with it is what they do with it. You know what I mean? That's what they're gonna say. Like, well, we gave him $40. We didn't tell him he had to go spend it on crack.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's but if you're a person with addiction, especially whenever like you're broke, you're just living off the street, like I don't know what you're doing. You might be sucking dick.
But that's part of the system.
Yeah, but I'm saying,
it's
like,
part of the system.
They give them the money, like, all right, and they know what they're gonna do. They're gonna go back.
They know exactly. They know that they're saying to them, we're gonna let you go and you can still get high. Because a person in their brain that's getting high is saying, I'm about to go to jail, I can't get high. So they're weighing it in their head as they're finessing them, like, finessing them, saying, oh, you can get out of this, and plus you can go get high again.
Yeah, that's just crazy, man.
It's criminal.
It is. That is criminal. You're right.
It's criminal. And this is the only place besides Florida, a small community in Florida, that runs it the same way.
That's awful. You know what else? This is a cool fact I wanted to bring up, because we're talking about the war on drugs. Mm-hmm. Because we never talk about the ladies on the show. This is actually a good thing, ladies. This isn't a good thing.
Oh, this ain't a good thing for the ladies. We better.
But at least it pertains to the ladies.
Oh, okay. We gotta get this lady up here.
When the war on crime or the war on drugs happened, the increase of women population going to prison like skyrocketed. It's double what men has. I mean, as I said, like it's rivaled like in terms of percentage. Mm-hmm. Like it's crazy how much is there. I mean, they only make up like about I would say about 13% of the prison population, like the women do, or maybe 9%, but somewhere between 13 and 9%. And but I mean, that percentage used to be so low until the war on drugs happened, because ladies were getting caught. Where was it out here? I was
prostitution, petty thief, addiction problem.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, you're right. You hit the nail right on the head there. What was I going to say? There was something I had here. Okay, so during the 1980s, the estimated number of women in state prisons whose most serious offense was a drug crime grew nearly tenfold. That increase alone was responsible for 40% of the total growth of women in state prisons during the time in the 1990s when the prison population was expanding most. Incarceration for drug offenses continued to drive women's prison growth more than any other offense category. This growth was due largely to the changes in law enforcement, sentencing, the under the war on drugs era, obviously, and the climate of the 1980s and 1990s. Reagan, everybody else in there. As the failings of the drug war became clear and political winds shifted, incarceration for drug offenses leveled off in recent years for both men and women. But many women use drugs to self-medicate in response to victimization and trauma, which can lead to justice system involvement. Substance use among justice-involved women may be motivated by a desire to cope with or mask unpleasant emotions, experiences stemming from traumatic issues, ensuing mental health problems. According to a 2006 report, of the 73% of women in state prisons who had mental problems, 3/4 also met the criteria for substance dependence or abuse. And more than 2/3, 68%, had a history of physical and sexual abuse. A 2005 study found that 98% of women in jails had been exposed to trauma in their lifetime, with 74% had drug or alcohol problems.
And you got to think, you know how they talked about trickle down from the taxes, how it's supposed to trickle down? You got to think the effect that has on family trees.
Yeah.
Because I get, if you delve deeper into those numbers, how many of them had kids? Where are those kids going? To grandma's house?
Yeah, exactly.
And grandma can't handle a 15-year-old that's running around you know what I mean?
The streets. Of what's she gonna say to him? You know what I mean? Like, that's not her
Right.
kid anyway, regardless. And then your mom, you're a mom who's locked up in prison,
and that turns into.
Yeah, and it's crazy. It's like, and those women, you saw it, like the women that are in these prisons file for mental health issues. A lot of them have that. They have been sexually or physically abused. Like, that's insane to me.
Crazy.
I mean, I know the numbers.
It's crazy.
Are,
The rooted problems ain't getting treated.
Yeah, and
their treatment is.
But coach,
here's a jail cell.
But this is what we've been talking about this whole time. The prison system's not set up to treat your problems. They don't care about you.
It's just to collect a check.
Okay, collect a check, get you in there, get you out of there, and sometimes even just to keep you in there.
And it has to change.
Yeah.
It has to change. And that's where I call on the people, like the people that are in a position to fight those wars they have the presence, they could get people to follow them. They have the money, they have the resources to come and say, hey, let's really take a look at this, and let's really, because what I said earlier, like how they said Meek shouldn't go there. I still think he should have went and looked the enemy in the eye,
right,
and said, "Yo, I would have been in jail for 2 to 4 years for popping a willie on my bike,
right,
because of something I did when I was 18, and it stopped all the money that was coming in to take care of my family, and all the guys that I'm employing now that could have been on the streets doing criminal things.
Yeah,
that has to be looked at. Like, let me ask you this.
Okay.
Do you think there should be special circumstances in a sentencing?
I agree. Yes, because that's what a judge is for, to look at everything and then figure out what would be the best sentencing for you. Look at all the facts, evidences, the circumstances that surround the charge. You know what I mean? Like, what's really gonna make you learn, and see, like, was it really that big of a deal? That's why, like, minimum sentencing just needs to go away, in my opinion, because
it does.
Because you just setting a bar without knowing anything else about what was going on in the circumstances and seeing it, just having the possession of something, and then you got to throw them in jail for however long. It's crazy.
You're not looking at.
That's not justice.
That's just like it's treatment. Think about, like, if you go to the doctor. Think about all the freaking paperwork you got to fill out.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that.
And all the allergies I got to ask you about. Are you allergic to Tylenol? Are you allergic to this? You're right. All the things that they have to do just to get you a treatment.
Just the case by case, to be like, okay, this guy ain't gonna be the same as this guy. This girl ain't gonna be the same as this.
and this one had bypass surgery, and we can't really give them this medicine. Well, what can we do about this tumor? Well, they got
It should be case by case.
Exactly. You shouldn't just be like, all right, well, it's just cutting. You know what I mean? Every person's different. You can't just go cut and dry. Like, oh, like, yeah, this lady's got a broken leg. Well, what are we gonna do for her? Like, well, we're just gonna have to put it back in place, get her a cast, all this other stuff, and you know, fix it up. Even though there's other circumstances that you don't see. Maybe not a broken leg would be the best example. We're talking about maybe heart condition. Like you have a heart condition or something, and then like, you know, like they're trying to fix you up by using all these different.
Or even the mental health. You ever seen a mental health application where
you
go to get service?
Yeah, like I said,
it's like
that thick. Right?
How much paperwork they have to go through to get. And one, they're not. Most of them, if you're not getting the treatment, they're not even in the right frame of mind right at that particular point to give you the right information. So most of them are being misdiagnosed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it turns into a whole trickle effect. So when you're getting sentenced and you're going in, it's like, what made you do that? Is it I freaked up, I fucked up? You can't come into a courtroom just like, you know, you can't come into a courtroom and say, hey, can you say something like, hey, I was drunk that night and I took advantage of the drunk girl, like that dude that got the sentence? Is that you got to worry? It could then cause some problems. But I've been drunk many a times and I never looked at a chick and said I'm gonna take advantage of you.
Right. Yeah.
I might have did some dumb shit and smacked the dude or something like that, or made a bad decision, but that's not a bad. That's a horrible decision.
Right.
Or maybe went and bought some drugs and got caught with it in your pocket, something like that. You know, those are case by case scenarios.
Right, exactly. And even with like individual like rape charges and everything too. Like I said, like what I was saying about like both parties being intoxicated, like, you know, and when you're both intoxicated, I mean, how does one even how do you even look at that in that scenario? Because like I said, it gets rid of both inhibition and everything else. You know, so like you guys might at the time you might want to actually both of you might actually want to have sex, and then afterward you regret it. And that's what I was saying about like it's not right for you in a moment to say like, oh, you know, like in a moment want something, then say I regretted it, I didn't want to, like, you know, like, yeah, it's like that gray rape area, you know. And
it's just one of those things, man, that they have to figure out.
Right.
They have to, like, you can't.
But I'm just saying,
they're case by case in it for certain people. That's just the bottom line.
Yeah, for certain people.
If you don't have if your dad isn't like this person or your mom isn't this person, if you're just Joe Schmo and we're not even talking color, we're talking poor,
right? You're
gonna get the shaft.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't have no case by case, but if you have
the dough,
connection and money and people know people,
right? You know, it was funny as this one guy was actually being charged, rich guy getting charged with murder, because I was watching something about pleas and bail, right? And like, you know, like they would make people basically take a plea because they couldn't afford bail, you know, and they're like, well, we'll just take this, and then you know, confess and, you know, get this all done and over with, right? You don't have to, you know, pay for all this and deal with all these problems. Rich guy, he just said, he's like, I'm paying, because his bail was like set for like $250,000. He's like, I'm paying $250,000. I'm getting out of jail. I'm like, yeah. Think about the person who's wrongly accused of a crime, who has to spend, you know what I mean, who was going to jail, right, for a murder he didn't even commit. Think about that. Isn't that crazy? For a crime he didn't even commit, or not even proven to have committed, he spends like maybe just 2 years in jail, right? And they tell him, oh yeah, you're free to go. We figured out that it wasn't you. And it's like, but I just spent 2 years of my life in jail.
And that's another reform. That's another prison reform too, because that goes by us. This is why it's so screwed up. Why is everything can be case by state, but can't be case by case in that state? Because you could go to jail. They let that dude out after like 30-something years, and you only got $1. It's case by case in each state. How much money you get? If you're in this state, you could end up with $20 million.
Right.
If you're in this state, you're getting $1.
You're getting $1.
So where is the common decency and common sense? Right.
Like I said, I think we have a judicial system in that sense. When we're talking about the sentencing,
it's broke.
Right. It's not. Well, it's not judicial. It's not judgmental. It's not. There's no discretion. It's just, you did this. This is what the piece of paper says. We're not looking at everything else around it. You're going to jail for this many years. Plain and simple. Bottom
It's
line.
got to stop. We're protesting tonight.
We're protesting. What are we gonna do?
I don't know. We're going somewhere protesting.
We're gonna start throwing up fists. We're gonna walk out in front of the
picket lines. Be like, everybody, get your signs. We're going to protest tonight.
Right.
But and that's like, I mean, it's just a factor that people got to understand, like the process, like.
I don't think people really do understand. Like the majority of people that aren't criminals or have been to prison, you know, because that.
But everybody has a criminal in their family.
Right. Well, what's crazy is the statistic is every one
in
110 people, or 1 in 110 people will go to jail. 1 in 110.
1 in 110 people will go to jail.
Yes. 2.1 million of our population is incarcerated, which means that's about. It's
not high.
It's still a percentage, though.
It could be way low.
It could
be way low.
I know it could be. But it's a bigger percentage than all of the countries around. Like it's like the biggest.
True.
In terms of percentage of population, that's crazy. Like and it's just wrong because we said, 46% of those people are brought up on drug charges.
Right. It's true. It's one of those things. Like look at the countries that have the drugs that are legal.
That's what I know. What that's actually one of the things I was going to bring up as a solution. You know, Poland, and this is fact. After they legalized all of drugs, right, in the country, Portugal decriminalized all drugs in 2001, and amid a heroin addiction crisis and soaring numbers of drug-related AIDS deaths. Yeah. Possessing small amounts of substances is now treated as a public health problem. It's treated as a health problem, not as a criminal offense. And instead, facing jail time, drug users who were caught must meet with medical experts. You had to meet with a psychiatrist, social workers, and they assess your situation and often direct them towards treatment and other rehabilitative services. Around the world, liberal drug policies have had great success in reducing the harms from drug addiction, such as HIV and overdoses. Faced with raging opioid crisis in the U.S., would be a wise model.
After problems of doing something.
Right. And that's how they treat it, though. Instead of like throwing you in jail right away, especially for first-time drug offenses. That let me see here. As described by a Portuguese counselor who works directly with recovering addicts, it's cheaper to treat people than to incarcerate them. That's like we were talking about earlier. If I come across someone who wants my help, I am in a much better position to provide it than a judge would ever be. That's what he said. Unsurprisingly, this humane approach to drug treatment has garnered widespread support among the Portuguese citizens. So the people of Portugal actually support this indefinitely because it's working. It's proven to have worked.
And another thing is, too, they need to stop taking them checks at the high level from people like pharma. They create the disease. Now they are a big player in treating the disease.
Right. Yeah.
So I'll prescribe you some, and when you can't afford it no more, and you're down, you're rock bottom, we're gonna get the money off your treatment.
Right. Exactly. So. And that's just another.
And treatment doesn't work. There's only 1% of people actually stay clean. Of all people that go seek rehabilitation, so that's another revolving door.
Is rehabs,
jail, institutions, or death.
Yeah,
that's
much
what you get from it. Drug war
on drugs, and it's sad because that's the world we live in. Prison, like I said, as the system stands right now, prisons are not meant. And you know what else too? I was thinking about these private prisons that made businesses. You wonder why they did it because if you're an entrepreneur, you see business. You see
business. I get it.
You see potential, and that's what's disgusting about it. They saw the flaws with the prison system, and they realized that it's a revolving door, and the recidivism and everything else. People are just constantly coming back in, and the system around it to help them get better those systems aren't in place, so they can make a lot of money, and that's disgusting.
That's where our government has to be like enough.
But they don't. Even the governor of Florida, that's a funny story too. The governor of Florida, he goes to meetings and stuff for Geo Group, one of those private prisons. So like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's a politician thing. Like, they're in cahoots.
They're lobbies,
and that's disgusting.
They need to stop it. We need to. If we create some kind of system where people understand, like, that shouldn't be one of the things that we make money off of.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? Right. Amongst the other things.
Right.
But I just think, like, when like those facts that you spit off about, like, the women being in jail, most of them had sexual abuse or abused, and they turned to drugs. they turn to drugs, but they're not being treated for those issues. They're being punished for what they tried to cope with, self-medicated.
Right.
You know, and that's just disgusting because that destroys our family trees because the mothers are
the ones taking care of, you know,
right.
children, and especially if imagine if you and your. I actually know a family, there people I grew up with, kids I grew up with. They lived with their grandparents because their mother and father were both in jail for heroin addiction, both of them.
I'm sorry. And, I've been hearing that a lot out.
And you know what? Yeah,
and that's what it was like for our community in where I'm from. The mother was getting strung out. The father was getting years and years upon years in jail for selling it.
Right.
The mother got strung out. So now the kid, grandmother house. Grandmother's older, can't
keep up with them.
Yeah, they're running around acting a fool, and then the process starts
all over again. And that's exactly what happened to him too. You know, it's sad. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's really sad. That's, like I said, it's meant to be perpetuated. It's not meant to be fixed. I agree. And with the prisons. But but today, we'll go ahead, let's reiterate. So we talked about how we could fix it. So, eliminate minimum sentencing rules. Turn down the amount of years for minimum drug sentencing. So when you get a drug offense, it's, you know, turn down the minimum amount of years you can get sentenced. We talked about setting up setting up better prison conditions, getting rid of privatized prisons because those are run like businesses, and they're going to keep, though it's just a fact, they're going to keep trying to get people to come back in. They're not going to try and fix the problem. They want, they're trying to keep you in there. They're trying to get you to come back. And we talked about therapy, which we've said that if you set up therapy programs whenever they get out of prison, once you reduce the sentences, so say like we said 1 to 5 years for, you know, first time drug offense, you know, or maybe your second or third, I don't know. And
it depends.
It depends. Like I said, but that's another fix we said too. So no more of this, you know, like
case by case.
Yeah, it's case by case rather than just, oh, this is what you did, that's what you're getting.
Right.
So look at that, and so now you judge it off that. You pick the years. They get out. Once they get out, programs are created, or buildings, or like you said, purchase land. Purchase land for people to go out and go to these houses, and they get a job at like this plant that they have or whatever. You work there, get money, get on your feet, learn how to integrate into the world again, and get back into society rather than just throwing out to the dogs.
And also identify the problems, identify the real problem, and try to get that person the help for their problem. If they keep screwing up, I understand it. They keep doing the same thing, I understand you have to sit somebody down that continues on doing the same thing over because they're insane. Right. That's the definition of insanity.
Do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result.
Right. So those type things, and plus all of that goes together, and it has to be the policing, because like I said, it's state by state, case by case. Something in Florida, like you could get caught with a bag of weed. They just take the weed.
Yeah. Exactly.
And go about your business. But if you can get caught up here, it could turn into you end up with 5 years on probation, paying all kinds of fine, and then you get caught doing, or you get something simple and you end up doing it 6 months in jail away from you for dumb shit.
Yeah.
That has to change.
Agreed.
So
all right, guys. I hope you enjoyed our talk about prison reform today. Like I said, hey, let us know what you think in the comment section below, or tell us, actually share this video and tell people what you think.
Like, share, comment.
Like, share, comment.
Subscribe. Make sure you get to our YouTube.
You missed subscribe.
I missed subscribe.
Just a second, though. You got it. No, but yeah, like I said, share the video and tell people what you think, you know, how we could really fix the issues here at hand that we have going on with the public and, you know, the prison system in general, you know. Do you think our facts were true to you? Think that we did a good job here letting you know what the business was all about? You know, I said, let us know in the comment section below. But as always, stay beautiful, everybody. This has been a Bridging the Gap moment. Take care of yourselves. See ya.